Most couples get overwhelmed by the UK spouse visa application process, even when they're in a genuine relationship. Because the problem is not always the relationship. It's about knowing how to prove the relationship. Understanding the requirements also means understanding different cultural values, different expectations, different ways of doing things. Without that understanding, the preparation process can feel stressful, confusing, and easy to overcomplicate. Hi, I'm Pauline. I have a PhD in anthropology and I specialize in understanding cultural differences. So today we will go through the relationship requirement in 5 simple steps so you can stop guessing and start preparing your evidence with more confidence. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not legal or immigration advice. Step 1. Understanding partner eligibility. Before you collect documents, you need to know whether your partner actually fits one of the eligible categories. Otherwise, everything you collect may be built on the wrong assumption. First, both partners must be at least 18 years old. You also need to intend to live together permanently in the UK. Then, you need to identify which eligibility category applies to your partner. Ask these questions. Are they British or Irish? Are they settled in the UK? Do they have pre-settled status? Do they hold another eligible visa, such as Turkish business person visa or Turkish worker visa? Do they have protection status or another form of permission to stay? This is where many couples lose clarity. They jump straight into evidence before confirming which route they are actually proving. Without confidence at this stage, everything else becomes guesswork. Government policies can change. That is why the best source is always the official gov.uk website. The eligibility categories are explained there in detail. Now, once you know the correct category, you stop preparing blindly. You can focus on documents that genuinely support your situation. And if you're preparing for a UK spouse visa application and want a more organized approach, we've created a free resource for you. You can download it using the link below or scan the QR code on the screen. Step 2. Understanding relationship eligibility. Once you know your partner is eligible, the next question becomes just as important. What kind of relationship are you asking the government to recognize? Now, before we continue, I want to show you this picture of famous Korean actors Bin and Jin. What if I claimed they were in a relationship? Would you believe me? Probably not. You would ask, are they dating? Are they married? Is it something else? What kind of relationship is this? Now, that brings us to step number 2, understanding relationship eligibility. So, we have to understand it in these terms. What kinds of relationship does the UK government recognize for a UK partner visa? Now, eligible relationships include a marriage or civil partnership recognized in the UK, living together in a relationship for at least 2 years before applying, being a fiancé, a proposed civil partner, with plans to marry within 6 months of arriving in the UK, being in a relationship for at least 2 years while unable to live together because of work, study, or your culture. So the mistake many couples make is assuming that we're genuinely together is enough. But the application requires a specific relationship route, not simply a general love story. Once you identify the correct route, your evidence becomes much easier to choose because now you know exactly what you're trying to prove. Step number 3, proving your relationship. This is often the stage where genuine couples feel most exposed. You know your relationship is real, but the stranger reviewing your application only sees documents. So, to answer the earlier question, yes, Bin and Jin are married. This photo came from their wedding ceremony. I found it in a news article discussing the birth of their first baby. The UK government requires evidence of your relationship. Many people think, okay, I will submit my marriage certificate. That should prove everything. But is that really enough? This stage can feel emotionally difficult because it's hard to separate the heart from the paperwork. One common assumption is presenting the relationship the same way you would explain it to your friends and family. But friends and family already know the context. The stranger does not. So if your documents only make sense to people who already know your story, they may not clearly prove what needs to be proven. That is what pushes many couples towards quantity instead of quality. So for us, everything became clearer once we understood one important difference. We were not proving our love to people who knew us. We were proving to a stranger that the relationship exists, that the relationship is genuine, that this is an ongoing relationship. So once you understand that, the evidence feels less overwhelming. And if you're preparing for the UK spouse visa application and want a more organized preparation process, we've created a free resource for you. You can download it from the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen. Step number 4, understanding sources of evidence. Now the question becomes, which evidence actually helps? Which evidence simply makes the application heavier? How do you prove your relationship? Now this is where evidence becomes crucial. Opening your private life to a stranger can feel uncomfortable. That feeling is completely normal. When the process feels risky, many people start assuming that more documents automatically mean a stronger application. But what really matters is the quality of the evidence and the way it is structured. More documents do not always create a stronger case. Sometimes they create more confusion, more work, and less clear story. Now let me give you an example from the Netflix K-drama Phantom Lawyer. There's this lawyer who can see ghosts and sometimes even becomes possessed by them. One day, his father, who had passed away several years ago, appears, and then, one day he possesses him as well, but while inside the son's body, the father cannot remember the lawyer's memories, so he cannot recognize the woman his son loves. So the woman can't just simply say, "Trust me," she needs concrete evidence. So she points to the necklace around his neck with a phone number engraved on it. Only after seeing that evidence does the father begin to trust her. Now that's the key point. Concrete evidence. So what kind of evidence does the UK government want to see? Now for us, everything became easier once we understood that the source of the evidence matters as well. It's not only about what a document says, it's also about where the document comes from. So if the source is weak, unclear, too old, the document may not carry the same weight as you expect them to. So we realized 2 important things. First, some evidence comes from official sources. For example, the government, bank, landlord, utility provider, medical professional. These sources help because they're not based only on our statements. Second, the evidence should reflect your lived relationship, not simply your legal status. In other words, the document should help confirm things like you are together, you share expenses, you're married or in a civil partnership, you live at the same address. Examples that are listed on the government website include marriage certificates, civil partnership certificates, tenancy agreements, utility bills, council tax bills showing the same address, letters from doctors or dentists confirming the same address. Now, recency matters as well. If the evidence is too old, it may not clearly show your current relationship. That's why checking the latest guidance from the government is important, especially the time period your documents cover. Right now, they have to be less than 4 years old. So once you understand the source, the purpose, and the timing of each document, the evidence stops feeling random. You begin selecting documents that genuinely help a stranger see that your relationship is real, it's current, and supported by more than your own words. Now, once you understand what strong evidence looks like, preparation becomes less about panic collecting and more about building a clear, believable picture. And if you're applying for the UK spouse visa application, want a more organized preparation process, we've created a free resource for you. You can download it from the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen. Step 5. Understanding the gaps. Even if you do not have perfect evidence, that means you might need to do a little bit more research. But you do need to understand the gap before trying to explain them. Sometimes, when you cannot provide the suggested evidence, the UK government guidance gives alternative examples. These may include one-off bills for home repairs, vet fee documents, letters confirming both partners are registered to vote at the same address, student finance letters confirming the same address. So there may also be other situations worth exploring. For example, having a child in the UK who is British or Irish. Situations where the refusal could raise human rights concerns. The danger is ignoring visible gaps and hoping that they will not matter. If a gap appears in your documents, it's usually better to understand it clearly and address it directly instead of leaving the stranger guessing. And if you have specific circumstances, professional advice from an immigration lawyer is strongly recommended. Again, this video is only for educational purposes. Now, once you understand your gaps, you prepare with less fear, you know what needs explanation, you know where professional advice may be necessary. Now you know the 5 steps for approaching the relationship requirement for a UK spouse visa. The next mistake many couples make is spending hours collecting documents that look useful while not actually moving the application forward. So if you are wondering how to organize your relationship evidence in a way that feels focused, clear, and less stressful, watch the next video. We will show you how to approach your documents without getting lost in busy work. See you in the next video.